Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. I am Aaron the Pedantic. I got in some cool stuff this weekend. Look at that. Monster Manual 2. I got the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. Sorry for the banging sound. That was the table. My microphone has probably picked that up. Anyway, not eBay, Amazon, $30 and $45 ish, respectively. Not that bad. Pretty good condition. Turns out that the Monster Manual 2 has been colored in by whatever child owned it before. But, I am the winner. I am the one who owns it now. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? Today, we're going to be talking about open roles and why I believe they are the best. So I am positing a scenario where I think that something is actually inherently a better way to go. Now, you are free to disagree with me, but I'm right. Let's argue about it in the comments. So let me support my decision, my rationale for why open rolling is best. Okay, first off, before anybody makes any accusations saying that I'm just a salty player, no, I primarily am the dungeon master, and I have been rolling in the open pretty much ever since I started DMing online, which is whenever 2020 hit. And before that, I didn't really use a screen anyway. So I guess I've always been rolling open for the most part. However, there have been times when I have used behind the screen roles. That is, I would roll in a private channel whenever we're playing online, but more often than not, I would prefer to roll in the open. And the reason for this is that there were instances when I was a player, and this is why I think it's important to be a player pretty frequently, where I kind of had to question some of the roles that were being made because they seemed a little bit too convenient one way or the other. Often in the situation where the players are being aided, or whenever there's a particular plot device that it seems like the DM doesn't want to let go of. And even though the players have a really cool plan for how to deal with something, they are not letting it happen. So ever since I've been, I was injured, if you will. I was injured in a few campaigns. I was very, very just strict on myself about no fudge ever, Aaron. No fudge. And because I don't ever fudge, the only reason for me to not roll publicly would be if they are receiving some kind of meta knowledge. Everybody knows the instances that I'm talking about. So in classic D&D, you have your search checks. If I didn't roll a 1 and I have a 1 in 6 chance by default, then, well, if there could still be something here. We all know how that works. So because of that, if I am seeing the roll, then obviously I can know that, I haven't thoroughly searched the area, I haven't done it properly. That's meta knowledge that sometimes people don't want to have, and I get that. But there are some really, really great things about rolling publicly. Okay, reason number 1. Players have no doubts about the integrity of the rolls. We are playing a game. Some people play the game in a way that is a little bit more narrative, and they really are not going to care about this stuff. They may even feel like it's okay for them to cheat, as in the players, and they may just not even care if a dungeon master fudges the rolls. Because of that, it's no skin off of their back if the DM is going to roll stuff behind the screen. But for those of us that do care, those of us that are, especially if we're playing a game that, we're really wanting to see what we earn, what can we earn as a player, what can we accomplish, and we don't want it to be strictly up to the whims of the DM. There are arguments about how the DM doesn't need to fudge rolls to make things happen. That's a whole other thing. But for those people, there is going to be immense value in just knowing every time that die hits the table, that is the roll. That is the one that we see. We're doing it. We're fine. We're good. Yes. It is going to ease any tensions that could arise from that kind of questioning. Is the DM being honest? And really the more you can do to dispel any concerns about honesty, the better, in my personal opinion. Okay, secondly, it increases the tension. This is something that some people could probably debate from the other side and say, well, whenever I'm forced to adhere to what the roles are, it actually decreases the tension because a lot of times we end up having results that are subpar. They're not really dramatic Maybe we kill something, something dies too fast, or something wipes out the party, and that's not satisfying. All that kind of stuff. We really have to find ways of just nipping these conversations in the bud, because really we're not speaking the same language. If you're approaching from that angle, we're just not playing the same game. I don't care about how dramatically satisfying something is. Really, my job in order to make that kind of stuff happen is just to world build in a positive way, and just know how to apply the right procedures to keep things moving. And the players will inevitably find ways to work within that context and keep themselves entertained. I've seen players that are like, look, I really hate the fact that we're just sitting here debating everything and not charging the enemy. I'm getting bored. I want to have fun. Let's go charge the enemy. So the players will find a way with that kind of thing. The thing that really this really nails is whenever you have those moments when the roles really matter. And I've had those happen so many times since I started playing classic D&D, and it does happen in even 5th edition. I'm also playing and running a 5th edition game, one of each, playing and running, playing one, running one. And we have had those pivotal roles. They have definitely happened. It was some very pivotal roles that spelled the doom of my character just last Wednesday night in 5th edition. Yes, my 4th level character in 5e died. Holy crap! How does that happen? Yeah, it does happen. And whenever you have those tense roles, it is awesome. Whenever I rolled that last saving throw, my last death saving throw, it was really cool because we were all like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's a little bit easier to achieve with classic D&D because they don't give you so many, they don't give you so many safety nets to pull you out of these clutches of death and despair. Instead, you get one roll to save against poison. If you fail it, you're dying. Hopefully, your cleric has neutralized poison handy. Otherwise, you are gonzo. Yeah. So it can definitely increase the tension. We've had some tremendous moments. That moment I talked about with that our campaign where Dane the Paladin went down fighting these gnolls was just part of the reason it was so epic was because we were just sitting there watching each roll, and we knew that he was one good hit away from dying, and then these gnolls were likely going to devour the rest of the party because he was the only one standing at that point. The rest of them were all bleeding out. They had almost no chance. And the fact that we would watch and I would roll for the gnolls attack, miss. He would roll his attack, hit, kill. And then just over and over again. It was amazing. We were just sitting there. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It just happens whenever you roll publicly. Yes, you're going to have those moments where things kind of drag all of a sudden because maybe you keep on not rolling. Well, you keep rolling for wandering monster checks and they never come. Maybe that's just how that happens. But you know what? It's okay because you have to have the lows in order to have the highs. And boy, do those highs hit hard, especially whenever they happened because that's just the way the cookie crumbled, not because that's what the DM wanted to happen. The DM can make anything happen. That's not special. There's nothing special about that. Maybe there is some kind of artistic, flair that goes into their ability to describe these things and create these scenarios and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that is a skill of a sort. Maybe that is something to enjoy. I don't really find that much pleasure in it personally. Not with this kind of game. Not when I've had the opportunity to experience what I consider to be real D&D, which is, the dice dictating everything, us using procedures to try and keep everything moving along, especially when we're using procedures that are, provided by the great Gary Gygax, God rest his beard. So the next thing, so it increases the tension. The next thing is that the players can learn your procedures. Now, some people will see this as a bad thing because they do not want the players to have any kind of meta knowledge whatsoever. I'm just going to say this. I mean, I've already said this before. It should be no surprise. This doesn't bother me, especially when we're playing AD&D, because we spend a fair amount of time thinking about mechanical and procedural things. We just do. It's okay. We're not going to be completely immersed in this way that you can get with a rules light kind of game, yeah, you could probably get a lot more immersed with like a really pared down BX kind of thing, or OD&D. But at the same time, I have found that this kind of meta knowledge doesn't hurt my games. Your mileage may vary. But what I'm talking about in that capacity is, for instance, the players can see when I'm making these random encounter checks, and I have kind of my own. Well, I say my own. I have my own interpretation, my own implementation of the way that it's written in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which includes me rolling, like, for instance, if you have a party of over 100 units that is traveling in wilderness, a day's worth of travel through is going to have encounter checks. I think it's 6 times a day. And that's just because there's so many of them. But if there weren't so many of them, then in planes, it would be at 3 times a day, 2 of them being at night, I believe. And yeah, so I mean, then I would be, because it's patrolled lands, I'd be rolling a D12, and it would be an actual encounter on a 1, etc. You know, you kind of get what I'm going at there. Players will be able to recognize, hey, he's rolling this many times. Why is he rolling this many times? You know, why is he rolling because we just searched a room? Why is he rolling because I picked a lock and then I, lit a torch, and, that kind of thing? Well, because they're like, okay, well, it's this, kind of like this amount of time, causes for this to happen. This kind of terrain causes this to happen. And then, the thing is the reason that's not a problem is because even though it's meta knowledge, the meta knowledge is there to represent a kind of a simulationist concept, and that is that time passing in the dungeon is going to create more opportunities for encountering creatures. It is also a game concept because encountering creatures, having random encounters, causes players to have stuff to do, which is good. You don't want them to just sit around or just travel and have nothing but empty rooms, right? Or nothing but the set piece encounters that you create within the dungeon. So having that look on it, this meta knowledge doesn't end up being too terrible from my perspective. I mean, again, I'm not a purist anyway. I'm the kind of person that says the AC is 6. I don't care if they know what the armor class is. So again, your mileage may vary, but whenever it comes to this stuff, I feel like it's fine. And so what then happens is your players are more equipped to understand the ramifications of their choices. Maybe we should tread lightly, or more lightly, if we don't want to attract attention. Or, you know what? We're going through these uncivilized lands where they don't have patrols all the time. And we know that whenever we encounter creatures in these patrolled lands, that we are, like 25% likely to encounter a patrol. So since that's gone, maybe we should try and not encounter things. Or maybe we should just say, screw it. We would prefer, because we're going to encounter things more frequently that are especially dangerous things in the uncivilized lands, then we might as well, hire a bunch of mercenaries and take them with us to repel off any kind of massive orc hordes or anything like that. Those are the kind of things that they can do whenever you are doing these things publicly. There are some situations where you may not want to roll publicly, and I understand that. In fact, the Dungeon Master's Guide even mentions these. I think I'm sure the BX books probably mention them as well. Hear noise checks, for instance, maybe even moving silently. I could see that. Detect or locate trap. Or find trap, rather, disable trap, those kinds of things. Those things where your player characters know if they succeed or not, but they may be able to act on that knowledge that they failed. And because of that, they may change what they're going to do. That is one of those meta knowledge situations where I can completely understand somebody saying, I got to roll this behind the screen. Sorry, guys. I feel like that one is okay. I do not take any umbrage with somebody doing that. In fact, I was doing that. It's only recently that I started saying, you know what? You can roll it, and we'll see what your roll is. We'll all know if you succeed or fail, but your character acts as though they succeed every time. And that's just how we go from there, always. That way we can have our cake and eat it too, in a way, because we're not affecting the way that their character behaves. We're affecting merely the fact that the player knows without the shadow of a doubt that this is exactly what had to happen. In fact, whenever we have those situations, I mean, even without those situations, I often tell the players the probabilities of things. That way they know where I'm thinking and they can see that I am not changing things. This is something that I've encountered a lot. Is you have a lot of early dungeon masters that will say, well, I can always change the difficulty class on this, because yeah, they rolled a 15 but the DC was a 16, but I really want them to pass, so actually no, it's a 15. Or there's the post hoc modifier inclusion, that kind of thing. No, even then I really try to nip the bud in that by just saying, you need to roll this, you have a 2 in 6 chance, roll low. You have a 3 in 6 chance, you have a yeah, like a 30% chance, that kind of thing. That's how I've been handling some of these things lately, and I make sure that I use the rules as they're written as much as possible, with some exceptions. And when there are exceptions, we talk about them, we make sure that everybody's on the same page. Really, I am doing a lot more of what I would call player advocacy than I used to, for sure. And I think that the games are improving because of it. I do have some players who are uh, watchers of the channel, and they may come in here and comment. Maybe they can say how they feel about this. You're free to say negative things if you need to. My players have been pretty solid about giving me feedback, though. For instance, we moved to BX Initiative just because the AD&D Initiative was too cumbersome. Now, when I say that, I'm saying it was too cumbersome with me implementing it. It doesn't mean, I don't know that it was necessarily the initiative itself, or if it was just my attempts at doing it. But we moved to BX Initiative, and it's been pretty solid. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this video, and I'm going to make another one perhaps so that I can talk about how the campaigns have been going, just a general dealio. Thank you guys for hanging out, and take care of yourselves. Peace.